Hello and welcome to Drinking with Comics. I'm Sean, this is Chris, that's Mike and Jordan, and tonight our special guest, this is Kristen Renee Gorlitz, and she is the creator and writer of a comic called The Empties that we're going to tell you about. So, welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
Kirsten is running the cameras, and we have a live studio audience. And real quick, because Mike made me swear I would do this, and I want to do it anyway. So in the audience, we have a special friend, Joe Baxter is with us. He used to film the show. And don't look at me like that, because Mike said that you already okayed this. So I just wanted to say...
And he's being arrested. I don't know if you can hear the sirens.
So Joe is here, and we love Joe, and Joe is moving to New York. So we're going to take the show to New York in a couple months. So Joe, I know you didn't know this yet, but we're going to show up in January.
We can't quit you, Joe.
Now, I've never been to the Windy Apple, but I'm looking forward to it.
The Windy Apple. So anyway, so thank you everyone for coming. We just did the first annual Drinking with Trivia. That went fairly well.
It went the annual thing?
Joe won.
It went.
We fixed it because he's leaving. He actually didn't win. He didn't get anything right.
Fuck you, I won.
You did. So, everybody, let's talk about Kristen's comic, The Empties.
Yay!
So right now there is a Kickstarter that you have going, and it's live. How many days more is it live for?
20.
20,
Yeah,
20 more
still
days.
about 20 days.
So tell us about what you're kickstarting. Tell us about how you came up with the comic. Just tell us all about the comic.
Sure. So, well, the story, it's called The Empties, and it's a relationship horror story. So, I had been through a couple of those horrific relationships, and
Aren't
I
they
drew...
all?
Yeah, I know, right?
Your boyfriend's right there,
I'm
isn't
about to get married, so...
Oh, that's your fiancé.
Yeah.
All right.
So, all of this horror goes right into the comic, of course.
But you're not going to get married unless your Kickstarter, funds, right?
Yeah, it's a desperate situation.
Different backs.
Yeah. The second one is the one that we're crowdfunding. So I have a cover that is completed, but we will need funds to actually print the second issue and have all the details correct on that one. So that's what we're funding, trying to get funds to print the second issue of the comic book, and then just help the fees of paying my artists and keep the series going. So there will be about 6 books in the series.
Cool.
Yeah.
6 books in the series. So your artist is Eli Powell?
Yes, Eli Powell.
How did you find him?
I found him through word of mouth. I had been working with someone who had been a story editor for Marvel on comics like Old Man Logan, and he came on board early on the project and helped to give me some direction and kind of learn what things were. I'm calling these things shots and stuff because I come from movies, and I'm like, okay, it's a panel. We lay it out on a page. Okay, I'm making sense here. So he helped kind of walk me through the ropes of comics, and he gave me word of mouth recommendation for Eli, who was actually the first person I was like, yes, hire this guy. I want him. He's horror. I haven't seen other artists like him, but let's get him. And then it took some back and forth and more of an artist search, but I approached Eli at a better time, and he was like, yeah, let's do this.
That's awesome.
Where does he live?
He's in Chicago right now.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Eli, I'm doing an episode in Chicago next month. So.
Oh, crazy.
Probably
yeah, you gotta bring him up. Yeah.
What inspired you
where you were going.
to make comics? You're from film, but
I'm from film, and I wanted to make some progress with this story, and comic books is the most amazing medium that I've found because I'm a control freak, right? So I want like every image specifically laid out how I want it to be. And you have even more control over an image with a comic book than you even do with film because you're bound by a budget.
Yeah.
I can draw anything on the page and it doesn't cost more. It just takes more time to get it finessed exactly the way you want it. So I was like, this is a perfect medium for me to kind of tell the story, and it's an end in itself. Like if it never goes beyond a comic book, I am trying to make a movie, but if it doesn't go beyond this comic book series, I'll be happy still with it because it's kind of worked it out, and now people can actually get into the story.
Is this your first comic book?
It is my first comic book, yeah.
How's it going?
It's great. I love it. I don't know if I don't know if I fit in comic book world or if I'm breaking rules or not.
It's good to break rules.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm kosher on the comic book rules and stuff, but I think it's turning out really well. Yeah.
I think it looks great. Like I mentioned earlier, it has a bit of a. Your artist has a bit of a Kevin. It reminds me of the April O'Neil from 1980.
Oh yeah! Oh my God!
Turtles.
Yes, it does. The hair.
I mean, she looks just like her.
The curly hair came from, I was watching Steve Martin's The Jerk, and Bernadette Peters has this crazy, amazing
awesome.
curly hair. And so this was the first time we were drawing Helen, and we were about to do her with the normal, flat, straightened hair with a bit of a wave. And I was like, no, let's do this 80s perm. And yeah, Paul hates it. He hates the hairstyle.
Is that Paul? Or?
Yeah, my fiance hates the big curly hair, and I'm like, yes, let's bring it back. I want to see more of this.
I can smell the hairspray.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And there's a menu in the back here, too.
Yeah, well,
oh, no, I see.
Yes, it is. The menu is part of the credits, and it also ties in my main character, Derek. He's a chef. And one of the things he does is take junk food and transforms it into gourmet kind of meals. So he uses gummy bears and candy and that kind of thing and makes creative dishes out of it. And it then becomes kind of a theme throughout. So I use gummy bears on the cover to kind of represent the state of mind and physical state that the characters are in.
There's a great bit, I forget which one it's in, but where it's like they're actually making the gummy bears like
talk to each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the scenes that I had written early on for my screenplay, and it really stuck and stood out as I even developed and changed other things. But what I have is Derek is kind of play acting his feelings with his he's going through some rough times with his wife, finds out that she's cheating on him, and he's just irate. And so he works out some of these things when he goes into the kitchen, and he starts play acting with gummy bears, and they talk to each other, and it's kind of funny, but you see what he's thinking too. So,
nice. That's a nice little sort of device.
Yeah, definitely.
It works.
It's a very cinematic comic, and I feel like that in itself, I could immediately see it as almost like the stop motion, like in as if I was watching it in a film,
Yeah.
It's something about it reminds me. There's like a Coen Brothers vibe in a way.
Cool.
I'm not exactly sure like where that came from, but I mean,
I love Blood Simple.
That's the one. There's something about it that reminds me of Blood Simple. I don't know what exactly it is.
Well, maybe a relationship horror. I mean, that's pretty terrifying relationship in that movie. So,
definitely.
I mean, the cliffhanger in issue 1 and how it pays off in the beginning of issue 2 alone, I thought was really cool.
Thanks.
And
I tried to leave it and break it on a bunch of cliffhangers, so I think I have one for every issue.
For all 6 issues?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's very good. What I was going to go for before, you have like a catchphrase. It's like, what is it? Like a bad romance will eat you alive? Is that it?
Yeah. Nothing eats you alive like a bad romance.
Yeah, and it's just a great, and I love the idea of kind of the juxtaposition of the zombie. I don't necessarily know that it is a zombie, but it's at least a zombie.
It's in the zombie field. I have a kind of different approach to it because in the Empties, it's the person and the wife in the story gets sick and she transforms into a brain dead kind of zombie by the end of it, but it's kind of watching her deterioration for the first 2 acts and all of the things that brings up, like, the fear of losing yourself, but then also on the husband side of things, fear of losing someone he loves, even though maybe it's not the best relationship to be in. So it's got a zombie element for sure, but I just thought that zombies have been worked out a lot with the social commentary that the humans are the real monsters and zombies are just the symbol for our inevitable death. Or we've got some great zombie social commentaries like Romero's Dawn of the Dead with consumerism and stuff, but we've got a lot of social commentary. I wanted this to be about how people can be both monsters and genuinely great. Like, we have the ability to do great things and horrible things, and especially when you're in a relationship, you get both sides of a person.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
not just like always one or the other.
Good people do terrible things, and it doesn't necessarily. I mean, sometimes then you're left with this thing like, the fact that you did this or I did this, does this make me a terrible person, or is there a way to come back from that?
Yeah, so I really like the complexity of people and their flaws, and so I highlight those flaws throughout the story. And that's one of the main things, is I really wanted to be fair to people who make mistakes but are doing things that are trying to help themselves. And
So if people want to read the first issue,
Yeah.
you can go to, is it theempties.com?
emptiescomics.com, and right now you can get a great deal on the comics, especially the digital copies, on the horrorcomicbook.com. That'll take you to my Kickstarter for the Empties, and you can get a digital copy of the first issue for $1, so you can catch up. $5 for both the first and second issue, and if we get funded, hopefully I can tack on a digital copy of the third issue, which we're working on finishing up right now.
Cool.
So
Where is the Kickstarter? I believe you made your goal, right?
the first one, we raised our goal, so that's I was able to print out a lot of copies of the first issue and I've been selling those and fulfilling the Kickstarter. This one is for the second issue, so that we can print enough copies of the second issue. So yeah, it's another one, and it's in progress. It looks like we're on track to meet our goal, but we need help. So yeah, check it out at horrorcomicbook.com.
Do you have films done out there at all?
I do. I have a lot of short films done, but this is my attempt to, one, show my story cinematically, as you said, and kind of get specifically the images that I want. And I think I would do a comic book for every potential movie that I do from now on.
Oh, really?
Because it's just such a wonderful medium to have one separately. I don't look at this as like a storyboard. As you see, I do a lot of like verticals instead of horizontals, and if I were just doing this as a storyboard, I would just like horizontal, 16 by 9 shots. It would just be so boring. It'd just be a storyboard that I'd be like,
so you understand
arrows.
the craft of comic book
And I
writing.
think that the comic book, it needs to stand on its own and flow page to page. But I think comics are just the perfect medium to take your idea and streamline it, get the script really tight. You can't have things that you can in movies you can get away with, like just people talking. But in a comic book, you want to show things better. So it's even more like a medium that's in love with images. And that's kind of weird to say, because movies should be mostly about images. But I think comics really take images to the next level and help you see and read through the story.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you prefer this medium over film?
No, I'm a film person. No, I can't.
It sounds like you did.
I would love to do every one of my stories in the comic book world, because it helps you really understand a film. It helps you work better on a visual way instead of just relying on some cheap things where you could do like a dinner table scene on a film, and you can do the coverage. You'd have a 2-shot, and then you'd do coverage, cross coverage, and just the actors talking and performing. If you were to try to put that in a comic book scene, you'd realize that you could do that better, like with better images that you haven't seen before. You might have to take it into some different setting, but you'd be able to capture the essence of a scene visually instead of just through a performance kind of medium.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So the comic book helps you really focus on the images, and then if you translate that back to film, you're going to have a much stronger scene, because you don't just need to have an actor doing a strong performance. You need to have an actor giving a strong performance in a really cool visual setting.
Wow.
Mind blown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So that's what I've learned.
You put Gerald to sleep. That's okay. He sleeps a lot.
I can't. I mean,
No
I really
worries.
like the comic, and I mean, I know that you're pursuing it as a film, so I hope that happens. But now I hope
you.
even more. Like, I mean, wow, that like. That's really
it's
awesome.
helped make it a lot better. I've been able to cut scenes from the movie and just learn where the action is, because capturing action in a still image is another challenge too. With movies, you have cheats. Like, I was looking for great action shots in movies, and I'd be like, pause on some Jason Statham film, and it's like, I can't take any single frame of this story and have motion. You can't. It's all editing and camera movement. So it's kind of a cheat. You just cheated your action scene all the way with just like kinetic movement of editing. But for a comic book, you have to kind of have action captured on just a single image, and so
perspectives.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to do, and a lot cooler when you can get it right, and that will help you translate back to a film where you don't have to rely on just editing or something. So yeah, that's for me what comic books have helped me.
Did you have any training in comics? Did you read Understanding Comics, or you just jumped in and did it?
Just jumped in and did it. No.
And you found your artist
knowledge.
how?
Word of mouth. Like I said, I had hired someone who had done story editing for Marvel to help me kind of go through the ropes and learn like what I'm talking about. And he recommended the guy, but he wasn't available immediately, so I did do a long search for artists online and commissioned a bunch of test pages to see what they could bring to it.
Right.
Found people who were really good, like with faces, which this is a story about two people primarily, so I was like, this would be awesome. This person's good at faces, but they had no horror experience, and also I found people who were good at, like, you know, superhero action and that kind of thing, but it just wasn't this fit. So I was like, man, I really need Eli. He's the only person I found who's just like straight horror. Like, I can show this third page here. He just kind of very gory, but really gets the body horror that I love.
And I know you're a Cronenberg fan. So,
I'm a huge Cronenberg fan, so he's influenced me.
Which there should be with a zombie story, especially something that's kind of happening slowly, and you're seeing other people like realizing it's happening.
So now with this, how much story do you have plotted out for it? Is this going to be like an ongoing series? Is it going to be a limited series where you already know your start
you said
end to end?
Right?
Yeah, it's a limited series. I have 6 issues planned, start to finish, and all of those screenplays are written. I kind of change them throughout the process. Like, Eli and I work on 2 to 4 pages at a time, and I kind of like go through those pages while he's working on that, or right before he works on them, to kind of then figure out the images and if they're still right for the comic book, because I did adapt it from the screenplay, so I have to just make sure that the pages are working, the pace is still like exciting enough to keep you turning the page. But yeah, I have 6 planned, and then there is a potential sequel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
So I could expand it definitely by following one of the main characters and kind of taking it in the more scientific approach on how this whole thing started, because we don't get a good look at why everyone's getting sick. We just have an apocalypse scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, so since a potential sequel,
you know why
really kind of takes it from this more personal story to a
yes.
larger...
Yeah, we can take it to the larger world and why people are turning sick, and maybe if they can, you know, prevent the disease, that kind of thing. They'll be studying the people who are sick.
Dude, kickstart this, people, because I want not only, the comics, but I want the movie. I want the subsequent TV series. I
want a bag of Swedish fish.
Yeah.
What's the Kickstarter?
If you go to horrorcomicbook.com, it should forward to Kickstarter, or just look at the Empties on Kickstarter. There will be one for my first one, and the second one is live.
Can we? You guys want to talk about a couple comics we got on the stack?
Want to? Yeah, sure.
What do you guys want to talk about first?
I only read the Magic one and the Blackbird.
Oh, let's talk about Blackbird.
Okay.
Dead of night.
So Gerald recommended. I saw number 1 come out. I looked at it, and I'm in this thing where I'm like, there's so many books right now. I'm trying to like taper down what I'm reading, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna pass. I was in here the other day. Gerald's like, it's really good. You should read it. I was like, ah. And then me and Chris get together a couple days ago. Chris and I, and he's like, oh, you know, we do the pre-show thing. He's like, here, read this one. I read it. I liked it, and I fucking loved it. Now, I come in here the next day, and Elizabeth that works here, it was so funny. She's like, yeah, I didn't really like it. I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, because I'm a girl and I read a lot of stuff like this with like the magic and the talking cat and the blah blah blah.
Fuck yeah, Sailor Moon.
Okay, I don't even know what that is. I mean, I know the name of it, but
That's hilarious.
but so it's interesting. I'm really interested in that dichotomy. The fact that like as a 42-year-old male, this was totally new to me, and as like I don't know how old Elizabeth is, but as a 20-something-year-old female, she's like, whatever.
That is funny though, because yeah, you're a grown man. You've never been sold. Here's a magical girl ever in your life, and I've been nothing but sold that my entire life.
Okay, that's really
Every time I swipe right on Tinder, I think it's a magical girl.
But I see where both you and Elizabeth are coming from. Because in the beginning, I'm like, I can point to almost any panel and be like, I've seen that in this.
See, that's
so many
fascinating
times.
to me. And
but
like,
towards the end, it won me over a little bit more. But I'm not a fuck up, so I don't relate to fuck ups at all.
okay, all right, fair enough.
Keep telling yourself that,
but
Jordan.
fuck-ups make for good stories, in my opinion. And like, I also like, it's really visual and pretty. Like they have their tone down. I mean it.
That's true.
It reminds me a lot of The Wicked and the Divine.
Definitely. Somebody pointed out there's like a Riverdale element, which I don't watch Riverdale, but.
That's
like,
interesting.
I know they have this like neon noir kind of thing for Riverdale that makes me want to watch it.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
And so this kind of has that too. But yeah, I mean, I'd never seen anything like this before, and
There's a
really
little Mandy peppered in there.
Yeah, definitely. Which if you haven't seen Mandy, just go fucking buy it and then just
the
watch
Nicolas
it
Cage
on your
movie.
knees in a prayer position because it's like amazing. But oh man, I don't know. So it's basically like. Two sisters, and it starts right before when they're a little bit younger. I forget if there's an actual year. I don't think there is.
I think this qualifies for a touch it and feel.
It's about 10 years.
I feel like they based it off like the 90s earthquake that was really
That's
bad.
what I was
think
thinking.
it was
94?
94.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was 3 years old.
it
So my
interrupted
mom
the-
thought
oh
I was
my
jumping
God.
on the bed.
Dude, that totally fucks me up because I was like
That's how
watching
that
the World
earthquake
Series
started.
when that happened. I was like, what do you? But so there's this earthquake. But during the earthquake, the one sister sees this like giant, like magical cat thing, like wrecking shit, and nobody else sees it. And then she's obsessed with this idea from fiction of like, was it Paragorns? Is that it?
Paragon or something
Paragons
weird.
and like magicians, and then she gets like pulled into this weird Grand Oasis diner, and it seems like it's some kind of like otherworldly way station, but like none of this, it's all so transient that like it happens and you don't get, you're like, oh, well, wait, what was that? And so they kind of are doling this out very slowly, and then meanwhile in the real world she's growing up and she's kind of addicted to pain pills, and her family's kind of fucked up. Her mom dies in an earthquake and her dad's a drunk. And
No. Her parents started fighting a shit ton, and then the mom, like, I think
Dies
she
in a
was
car crash.
arguing with the
Oh,
dad,
you're right. I'm
and she
sorry.
dies
I'm
in a
sorry.
car crash.
I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
And so then it's just her and her sister. But the
Whatever.
thing that I loved is so that the main character really, she's seen this stuff and she's like, oh my God, all this stuff I love from fiction is real and I want this. So then, when we go from the 10 years before to the 10 years later, and at some point this giant cat thing reappears and it takes her sister. And her response is like, no, take me.
It was
like,
supposed to
I'm
be
the
me,
one that
yeah.
believes in this. And so there's this whole element of like the disappointment that like
Yeah, that was
Oh,
kind
And
of cool.
she's been waiting for this for the last 10
I'm
years.
pretty sure the mom is the thing that made everyone forget that the earthquake even happened, though.
oh,
Cause
you
she's-
have been sold this your whole life.
I
You've already
have
figured
sold this
out.
my whole life.
All right, well, Sam Humphries and Jen Bartel. I mean,
Spoiler alert.
Well, that's why she suddenly finds this thing and she's like, oh, if I put this here, and I can see it. I'm special.
If you're interested.
But I'm not
Thank
saying
you.
it's bad.
Makes the
At
flight
all.
go
No,
quicker.
I'm just
I know.
I'm
I'll be
incredibly good
sleeping,
at
yeah.
guessing stuff.
Yes.
So
fair enough. Dead Rabbit.
Yeah.
So Dead Rabbit. It's Jerry Dugan, right?
Jerry Dugan, yep.
And John McCrae, who did Hitman with Garth Ennis.
Yeah. Not to be confused though with Jimmy Dugan, the spectacular coach of the Rockford
Jerry's a
Peaches.
friend of the comic
or-
bug.
or-
He's been here a few times, actually.
Isn't I keep thinking of Dum Dum Dugan. Isn't he one of Nick Fury's
Howling
Howling
Commandos,
Commandos?
yeah,
He's
he
like-
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry Dugan wrote Deadpool.
Deadpool for
and
a
he's
long
been here
time,
several
right, yeah.
times, yeah.
So basically, was it 20 years ago? Something like that?
It's like late 90s. I think.
Yeah, so 15, 20 years ago. In Boston, there was this kind of like a vigilante criminal called the Dead Rabbit. And I'm going to say he's a vigilante criminal because he would go around kind of beating up and stealing from criminals, mob bosses, things like that. But then again, he'll turn around and then he'll go rob a bank.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of hitting everybody. And it kind of starts off with a news report saying that it's been X amount of years since the last reported sighting of the dead rabbit.
Well, it's like the 20th anniversary, right, of the last time.
And at some point he's kind of become this kind of, I don't want to say a folk hero, but he's just become kind of endeared to the Boston area.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile we see what he's really been up to. Everyone's saying
just standing up to wipe his ass because of his hemorrhoids.
Which is exactly.
Reminded me of Airboy quite a bit. The first scene with him, he's literally standing in the bathroom wiping his ass.
Yeah, exactly. And over the years, the media, they've kind of exaggerated his story. After his last big score of $12 million, and you're kind of like, well, wasn't it $10 million last year and $8 the year before that, and so on. So they think, was he killed? Did he retire? Where's he been? What happened to him? And meanwhile, he has become a greeter of a Walmart-type establishment.
And he has hemorrhoids.
I
turned right to that page.
He's credited with his last heist had to do with a mob boss. And it was like, this is the one they say 8 million, 10 million, 12 million or whatever. And at some point they cut to the mob. And they're like, they're doing another story on this fucking asshole, blah, 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 blah. And they're showing you he doesn't have this money. Like, he lives in a home. His wife is sick and dying, basically. He's used up everything he stole. So he went out, wanted to get back in the game. He goes to case a Walmart.
Yeah.
And realizes nobody fucking pays cash anymore. I can't rob this place. So he literally gets a job greeting.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I need money. So he leaves every day. His wife thinks he's going to play golf. He goes to Walmart and he's a greeter. And then what gets him back into it is totally fucked up.
Yeah, he catches, or he notices a guy coming in, basically buying all of the ingredients to get rid of a dead body. He's buying, basically
Count Chocula, some milk.
Drano, saws, pliers, chemical gas mask. Yeah, respirator, there you go. Just basically all these things just to get rid of a body. And he is no stranger to this. He's, noticing like, what a fucking idiot. He's buying everything all together. It's not like he's coming in and getting this or getting that. He's being really obvious about it. And so the guy goes to pay cash, and he, registers down. We got to use your card only. The guy gives him his card. Okay. He goes, okay, now let me see your ID for the card, because he wants to see where this guy's from. But then the guy changes his mind, but not before he managed to catch the name of the guy on his card. And later on, he goes to pay him a visit that evening and dons his Dead Rabbit outfit again to go
which you can tell he's been dying to do, right?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like he didn't get to do it because he realized I can't rob Walmart, so
exactly.
So he's
exactly
raring to go for any reason.
And it is interesting, because he has the muscle memory of everything, but he's still very rusty.
Well, and he's older.
Yes,
so he has the muscle memory, but the body doesn't necessarily. I can relate to this lately. It's like the body does. It's like, I know what to do, but the body's like, yeah, but we don't do that quite at the same speed you used to be able to do it, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
We talk about Neil Gaiman's. I don't know if we've even touched on this.
I think we brought up the Dream.
Oh, we did the Sandman Universe. So now at this point, like, we're 2 issues into most of these. The Dreaming was great. House of Whispers I really liked. The one that surprised me.
I didn't like House of Whispers.
I like Voodoo. I have a thing for Voodoo. So.
Voodoo?
No. Not Voodoo.
You do.
But the one that surprised me, because I'm such a huge fan of the original series, and the original series is very much, there's a point to everything that happens. You don't get it. I read it monthly. You didn't see it at first, but then when you start to see, oh my God, this is where it's going, it's amazing. And I know they've done, it's Lucifer. They've done a TV show, which on this show, I like when I heard that it was basically Castle, and it's like, oh, Lucifer leaves hell to help the LAPD solve crimes.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck you. Now, Kirsten watches the show. I've never watched it, but I actually believe it's a good show. It's just, to me, the premise of that original series is so amazing. Like, why just do that with it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, oh, a new Lucifer book. This is gonna be. I'm really in.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I can't even tell you
yeah.
what the fuck happened in the first issue, but that made me. I was like, what? Well,
You can, I read it. No, you can try it. You can try it. I want to hear what you think happened in the first issue.
I don't really know. I mean, he's obviously like, really down and out. He's in some place where they're like basically like taking care of him. He's like an invalid almost. He's like mentally not stable. And then they're cutting between that and this cop has a sick wife. Holy fuck! Is this a crossover?
Yeah, right.
But I don't know. It's doing a very good job of setting up things. Like, I love stories that dole information out slowly, so that you're like, am I supposed to know what that is or who that person is?
Yeah.
And you don't get it right away. I like that. I know a lot of people.
Well, I definitely got Robert Johnson in there.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. Overall, you know what I liked about it? It feels like Vertigo.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, I think this is where Vertigo, I think DC has realized, so they kind of moved the old Vertigo into the new 52 at first with like Justice League Dark or whatever, and it worked for a little bit, and it just and it became watered down. And I think this is their version of like, let's kind of try and recapture that audience.
Well, I mean, this is a Vertigo.
It is, but I'm saying like, it's original Vertigo. Which,
yeah.
Like, Vertigo now is different. It's Hex Wives, right?
Yeah.
And what's the other, Bordertown?
Bordertown. What's the one that's coming out that Robbie's doing? Goddess Mode. It's coming out soon.
That's yes. But so I mean, that's what I liked about it. It felt like old school Vertigo, and I love old school Vertigo. But I also didn't know. Like, it didn't feel like a rehash. So, did you read this? I didn't read this.
Yeah, I read that one.
I never read the original series.
Why don't you want to talk about it a bit, Jordan?
I liked it a lot.
We don't have it over here.
We don't? Okay, well,
Here,
I super duper recommend it.
You super duper recommend it?
Super duper recommend it. I love it.
What'd you love about it?
Let me find it. Let's see. So it gets right to it. It doesn't waste your time. It grabbed me right away. I wasn't bored like I was bored in the beginning of Blackbird.
Okay. We're men.
The short-haired woman. Her name is Dr. Rose. Love her. She said some shit. Let me see. Simple shit. Let's see. So he's all upset because he chose to be magical, and because he's supposed to be like the best ever, whether he's good or evil. Yeah,
he's prophesized to be like
Tim Hunter, right?
Yeah, Tim Hunter, and he's super pissed off it's not working.
Not to be confused with Hunter, the cop from
or Harry Potter.
No, this character actually predates Harry Potter.
I know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He looks a lot like him, but yeah, totally predates it. And so he's a pissy teenager. He's mad because he's like, I chose magic. And he's like, I'm not sure if it even matters whether I choose to be good or evil if I can't even do the magic I'm supposedly destined to do. And she said, and you thought because of your destiny that magic would come easily without learning or practice,
awesome.
Without cost? Yeah, I'm like, she made me, in my head, say the vine that I love so much. Step your pussies up. Own a business. Yeah, no, she's awesome. She hands him a blank book and she says the words will appear to you when they're supposed to. And they sort of start doing that, and then he's a pissy teenager, and then they go away.
And then there's an ad for
then there's an ad for
the
Harry Potter movie coming out.
Rub it in.
Well,
I like.
So the interesting thing about, obviously Tim Hunter predates Harry Potter by quite a bit. And there was a point, I don't remember, this is, at least 10 years ago, somebody said something to Neil Gaiman, like, on record in an interview, like, why don't you sue J.K. Rowling? And he's like, so who cares?
Yeah,
I thought it was really cool. Like, yeah, I mean, and obviously that's an influence on Harry Potter.
Well, did she read it? I have no idea.
I don't know, but I mean, I feel like it has to be.
It's possible, but at the same time, like, if you're like, oh, I want to make a wizard character, well, then obviously there's a society of wizards. It's just
Well, I mean, I don't even know about like the society or any of the architecture of the magic, but just the character. I mean, it's
they do. They look the same.
But it is possible. I mean, that does happen.
They both end up with like pet owls.
Oh, do they?
Which is a thing.
Oh,
really?
shit.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little specific. I was going to say if it's just some white dude with glasses, I mean, come on.
Because people have tried to sue JK before, being like, "Oh, this is way too similar to my stuff." And as far as I know, they've all lost. I'm only aware of the one anyway.
Fine. Any questions from the audience out there tonight?
I love when he throws it out to the audience. It's great.
No, nothing?
So here, I have a question. I'm not in the audience, but I have a question. Does anybody know, now Chris had references, so Books of Magic seems like the one where it's like a reboot, because Tim Hunter would be, like, Lucifer and all the Sandman stuff, it's clearly like down the road from the original series.
Well, this is, but it isn't, because even in the first few issues, or the first few pages, I mean, like they actually show little panels and they reference to some of the original series in here.
Oh, there's Constantine, yeah. Okay, so I mean, I'm just curious how it's, if he's younger again, how it's not a reboot. But I mean, having not read the original series, I guess I'm kind of shit out of luck.
I mean, for me,
somebody can explain
me, it almost just seems like it's like a different kind of dimension. There's even a line in here that says, once upon a time there lived a boy named Timothy Hunter. He seemed like a very usual sort of boy, except there was one thing that was not usual. And so they took him across time and into danger, through doors between worlds, and to the very end. So that's kind of giving you the idea of everything that happens in the original. He's kind of asking what's happening now.
So it's starting again.
The most powerful magician, the ender of the universe, a force for good or evil, chose magic, chose safety, chose Tim, and then it kind of cuts to him. Tim Hunter. And he wakes up. I choose magic, I choose magic, and he's sitting there in class. So yeah, I mean, it almost seems like it is a continuation / like a soft reboot, I guess, in a sense.
Oh my God.
What?
Sam Keith, Batman the Max. I'm reading a lot of Batman right now.
Them ears, though.
Ever since he showed his pecker, dude, you were on board.
Oh, wait, let's just talk about that shit right now. Okay. So, I was waiting for Batman Damned simply based on the Comic Shop News article that said, it's this dark story. Who writes it?
Brian Azzarello.
Yeah, Azzarello, and I forget who the artist is, but he's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And it's Batman and Constantine, and I'm like, I'm always down, okay, awesome. And then I come here, the day it comes out, and it's magazine size. I was like, oh my God, I should buy multiples of these. And you had like hundreds of copies. They were like hanging from the fucking ceiling and shit. And I bought one copy. I went home and I read it. I'm like, this is fucking amazing. And then he texts me. This is great. I'm just going to go full out with this. He's like, hey, did Mike put that in your poll? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, he didn't put it in mine. I'm like, well, dude, they had like 500 copies. He's like, no, they have none now, and it's going for like, $150.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Wait, what? And he's like, well, the controversy.
Yeah.
I'm like, what controversy? He's like, Batman's Johnson.
Yep, the Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, Bruce Wayne.
Wait, is there a wiener?
The battle.
There's
literally there's a Battwang in there.
Show me right now.
There's a.
We don't. No, we didn't bring it in.
It's a $150 book. I'm not bringing it back here.
Yeah. So it's funny. It's listed on. It's listed.
Oh,
what am I, chopped liver?
Equals for you. That's
well, Chris, you cannot text me at like Friday night at 2 a.m. Hey, can you get me that Batcock?
No, it wasn't.
I'm not going to remember come Wednesday.
This was when it first got announced.
Yes.
I sent you a screenshot of it, and I'm like, can you add us to my thing? And I clearly remember it was daylight out, my friend.
I sent him a reminder, because I was like,
you got it though, right? Chris?
Yes, I did. Yes,
okay,
I eventually got it.
Mike did it
for $85 on eBay.
No, I got you.
No.
But it's fucking awesome.
His penis?
It was so. But
it seems standard.
His penis is fucking awesome. God damn. Wow. I mean, you see how they got Morgan Freeman to play his penis? I mean, it took me out of it a little bit because I was like, it's Morgan Freeman, but I mean, I guess.
There you go, Jordan. That's the first appearance of Batman's penis.
Oh, overhyped.
Thank you. I didn't even see it the first time I read the book. I'm like, what?
See, that's how overhyped it was.
How was there a...
So you think he's compensating for something when he puts on the big ears?
I guess so.
The
So
taller
anyway,
the ears get.
Is he... This isn't erect at all, is it?
Well, he's getting out of the fucking Batmobile.
Then he's not erect.
Hey,
That
that
was
is
so-
bullshit.
Well, hey, issue
If you
2
were in the
is out next month,
Batmobile,
so,
you'd be like,
let's hope. Let's hope.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just downloaded this
Yeah.
to yours.
oh, thanks.
Yours.
Oh, he
now
just
that's
posted
going,
that
now
to
that's
your
going to the
Instagram.
cloud. Now, the funny thing is, too, with that is, part of that controversy was that they were up in arms over it. I don't know who the fuck who made a big deal out of it. But then DC... Huh? Fucking Christians,
Not
dude.
even
Ruining
Christians.
all the good shit.
Christians
So,
love
DC basically said, okay, here's what we're doing. We're going to censor it for all the digital releases, so the only way you can see it is if you get the physical copy. And then later on, they said, okay, well, you know what? From now on, all physical reprints are going to be censored as well. And then they eventually said, okay, you know what? We're not even just going to reprint it at all.
Ugh.
They're gonna do it as a trade, and they're gonna.
So the lesson
I mean,
is-
it's not really essential to the story. The penis isn't.
Not at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. It's barely
It
even
is.
there. It's,
And what shape is that, Sean?
It's... I walked into that one for sure.
That's what she
Um,
said.
Yeah, it's... I mean, it's like he's in a dark room. It's barely even there. It's barely... It's not like he's standing there like the beginning of... what's the movie with...
The penis?
No, yeah, where he uncrosses his legs. No, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. That was like one of the first. I remember somebody's like, "My God, it's like full frontal."
Jason Segel.
Yeah, like it's not like that. It's like he's in the darkness and there's like the outline and whatever. Okay, God, I'm explaining
Paola
this.
raises a good point.
What's that?
Sex equality, at least. LOL. Yay, gender equality. Caps lock. LOL.
Hey, what yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, too, is like earlier on, was it this year, last year? There was an issue of Wonder Woman, where that shows her, or it's the first appearance of
Camel toe?
No, Wonder Woman's nipple.
Oh, okay.
She pulls her thing down to breastfeed a kid, and there's a panel where
Wait,
she
how's
has
she
her
Wonder
boobs
Woman
out.
breastfeeding?
Huh?
Yeah. Is she
Yeah.
lactating?
Because she's
Oh,
Wonder Woman, she
sure.
can fucking do anything. I don't know.
So you can just-
sort of
That's
weird.
one.
Conjure
That's
milk
one of her
up.
new
That's
Amazonian.
sort of weird. Batman's just naked. Then it's not a random woman suckling a random baby. That's not
Like
hers.
she has to be pregnant, dude. I will point out, like
Or
my friend
baby suckling,
Penguino.
whatever the fuck.
After
been
after
on the
Ask
show?
me. You
She's
didn't
been on
win
the show,
trivia.
yeah. So after the Bat Dick controversy broke out, she texted me to hold a copy, and she's like, "By the way, am I the first girl that's asked for it?" And I'm like, "Actually,
Yes.
you are."
Yep. I knew the answer to that question was
Yep.
yes.
Yes. So anyway,
I'd
there
be
you-
fine seeing her boobies under normal circumstances, but not.
You
she's
can't breastfeed unless you're
randolactating.
pregnant,
You,
yeah.
you can't randolactate.
you can't just randolactate. Did you just make a word up?
I don't think so.
You can't randolactate. Ain't no randolactating in here.
So,
Bro
Sam,
science says, pal.
Sam Keith is doing Batman and the Max, and I'm less interested in the Batman element. I'm more interested in the Max element
Right.
because I love the Max. And Sam Keith's art is, especially when applied to Batman, it's a little ridiculous. But I'm a huge fan of the original series. I was introduced to it through MTV.
Yeah.
I forget what the show was.
Liquid television.
No, it wasn't Liquid Television. It was
No, it
Oddities.
wasn't?
It was MTV
Was it?
Oddities. They had a thing called
What
The
was
Head.
Liquid television then?
That was like Ian Flux and whatnot.
Oh.
So they had a thing called Oddities. They did The Head, and then
The Head.
then they did the Max.
Holy
So that's
shit.
how I got into the Max. And so it's the story of the big purple guy, the Max, and Julie Winters, and there's a supporting cast. This girl Sarah, who's younger, whose mother is friends with Julie, and it's a really weird book. The villain's Mr. Gone, and about issue 20. I think the cartoon was like the first 10 or 12, and then you keep reading it, and issue 20, Julie moves, and the Max is really freaked out, and then the next issue, it's just not about the same people, and the Max is no longer in the book, and it moved on, and it was just really strange, and it got even better, I thought, but I always wondered, wow, what happened to Max and Julie? And I think this is actually continuing the story.
Huh.
And it's interesting that he's really smart, Sam Keith, the way he's doing it. The Max is picked up and they don't know what to do with him, so they bring him to Arkham. and then he gets kind of under like there's some like nefarious doctor who's going to do some weird shit and
because
blah,
of course.
blah, blah.
I love the nose cutout.
Yeah,
for the panel.
Totally. But it's just, I don't know. I'm just glad to see the Max back. I really really like it. It's cool. So all right, who else?
There we have it.
What do you got going on, Mike? You got anything going on?
I got nothing going on. I talked about everything you guys had going on.
No. But I mean, you can talk about ones we haven't read yet. You're talking about a Silver Surfer that was pretty.
Oh yeah, I did read this. This was fun. But I really don't have much to say about it. It's just a really cool story.
Is it?
Silver
It's a
Surfer.
number one.
It's a one
annual.
shot. It's an annual.
Okay.
There's not currently a Silver Surfer series going on, but he goes to this
cool.
planet.
It looks very cinematic.
Yeah, check it out. He goes
It seems incredibly old school to me.
Nah, it has a nice twist.
Old school from way back in 1999.
Yeah.
Yeah, God.
That's not
all the way
It's
back.
got a little bit of a Mobius touch to it, I think.
Definitely.
And but yeah, so he rescues a planet, or maybe he doesn't. And then his job is to find Galactus planets to eat. And there's a little twist at the end. So yeah.
That looks cool.
Yeah.
I want to give two
I just want to see the twist.
quick things, and then I guess we'll cut it.
Sure.
We're gonna have in January. I think DJ Kirkbride's gonna be back on the show. He's got a new book called Errand Boys that I fucking love. Like I read the first. I haven't read the second issue yet, but it's just really cool, weird sci-fi. There's like a Firefly element, I guess, in that the main character is like an errand boy, but it seems like he steals things, and that's like what that's what that means, like errand boys or whatever. And I just really, really liked it. I cannot say his artist's name still. I still can't say it's the same artist, I believe.
No, it's a new artist.
It is a new artist.
Yeah,
okay, well, so DJ, you've picked two artists I can't pronounce. But that's okay.
Kotsis?
I had trouble pronouncing Chris at first. It took me like 6 months. No, it was yeah.
Kotsis.
So there's that.
Kotsis? Kotsis.
This I didn't know was coming out, and I was really surprised. In 2014, Cullen Bunn had a series called The Empty Man that I really liked. It was about a disease that might be God, that might be like an invasion, that was just really wreaking havoc with the population. People would see things, like horrific things, and it would make them change the way that they did things, and then they would do terrible things to themselves or to one another, to their families, and they would say, the empty man made me do it. And it basically followed partners. It was an FBI agent, and a CDC agent that were paired to investigate this. And I don't know. It's just really weird and like body horror and kind of fucked up. And it ends in this way where it's like one of the CDC guy goes into this weird like other world where you have to access it through this woman's like this woman had been skinned alive and they had found her skin like draped up. And so the whole series they're looking for these two children. It was this woman's children, right? So they go to this crime scene. The husband's dead, the woman's dead, the children are missing. The woman's skin is draped up like this tent, right? It's been taken off her body. And what they find out in the last issue of the miniseries is that's the doorway. So they go to the fucking coroner, they pull the fucking skin out, and they tack it up and open it. And then the CDC guy goes, I'm going to go in. Because he's also dying of cancer, you learn. So he's like, I got nothing to lose, I'm going to go and try and find him. He goes in, and then it ends. And I'm like... Wait, that was issue 6 of 6. Okay, so there'll be something.
So it's almost like Cronenberg's being John Malkovich.
Yeah. Yep. So
now I really want to see that movie.
Yeah, how about it? So then, like, there was nothing, and I never heard anything about it again. And then I just
This is the original?
No, this is the original. So then I just happened to look the other day. I go to this. Every day, every Tuesday at work, I go new comic books coming out this week, and it takes me to a website called like Comic List or something. And I saw The Empty Man, and I'm like, wait, what? Ongoing series. So it came back, and it picks up with totally different people. The outbreak or whatever the fuck it is has escalated so that the world is really fucked up. And then at the very end, you catch up with like the Fed. So you see the Fed, and she's now partnered with this guy that had been doing autopsies and like helping them with the case. We don't know where the guy that went into the skin is, though. So, but it's
He's in John Malkovich.
he is
You know?
he is.
Stallone.
It's really great though. I know it's cool.
Stallone.
I think we'll wrap it. So, Kristen, the Empties Kickstarter, go to horrorcomic.com.
Horrorcomicbook.com. Yeah.
And support it and read it, and it's awesome. And yeah,
Thanks.
Have
Good
a
luck.
safe journey
Yeah,
to
have a safe
Michigan.
Oh,
journey.
yes.
Michigan?
Stay warm.
Oh, goodness. I'll try.
You'll be warm. She will not.
Your fiance will be here when you get
We'll be
back.
here, yeah.
Yes.
Enjoying the weather.
Yeah, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you
been
guys
great.
for tuning
Thank
in
you
and for tuning out, for coming down, and
Thank you.
Joe Baxter.
Yeah,
Thank you
dude.
again for the
Much
legacy
love,
that
my
you've
friend. Much love.
helped start. And
We're out.
good time in New York, man. Yes.